So just so you know where we're at. This one's from the Harvard Gazette. University sues Trump administration over move to bar international students, scholars. So the big one with this is who knows if these TROs mean anything anymore? Who knows if these injunctions mean anything anymore? But I think Harvard is the one to, if anybody's going to do their due diligence and do it, hopefully it is going to be Harvard standing up to this. But honestly, I've seen the legal challenges and stuff like that. I don't know how many teeth or how much teeth things like this actually have. The big one for me is, what is this long term going to mean with countries like China offering all the international students that may be denied from Harvard unconditional terms to come over and learn there? We will not feel these consequences for a long time down the road. We may feel some of them soon, but the real full consequences I don't think we'll feel till later. And losing out on our education, losing out on our best and brightest, our youngest, that were coming here to learn and improve and have us be that staple of the world where you can go and you can get a good education. These things like the barriers that we're putting in front will make us less notable in these categories on the world stage and less serious when it comes to all this stuff. A judge grants university's motion for a temporary restraining order blocking government's actions. A federal judge on Friday issued a temporary restraining order blocking the Trump administration from revoking Harvard's ability to enroll international students and to sponsor international scholars. The ruling by a U.S. District Judge Allison D. Burroughs prevents the government from, quote, implementing, instituting, maintaining, or giving effect, end quote, to the revocation. In a message to the community Friday afternoon, President Alan Garber said that a hearing has been set for Thursday to determine whether the restraining order will be extended. Harvard's initial complaint on the matter, filed early Friday, called the Trump order, quote, a blatant violation of the First Amendment, the Due Process Clause, and the Administrative Procedure Act, end quote. Harvard's actions were prompted by the Trump administration's latest escalation in a dispute with the university. In a letter sent Thursday, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem wrote that the university's Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification had been revoked, effective immediately, claiming the action was a result of Harvard's failure to adequately comply with the April 16th government request seeking records related to international students. The letter and the Secretary's accompanying press release also cited grievances against the university that were unrelated to Harvard SEVP participation, application regulations, or Harvard international students. The motion for a temporary restraining order, filed shortly after the main complaint, sought an immediately halt. Damn. That's a Harvard Gazette typo for you. Sought an immediate halt to the government's action, arguing, that's a fuck up by me, arguing that the revocation would inflict irreparable harm on the university and its students. It cites the human costs of no longer being able to sponsor or host thousands of students and scholars whose lives and work face major disruptions. The action by the Trump administration is quote, undisguised retaliation, end quote, and, quote, quintessentially arbitrary, irrational, and unilateral executive action, end quote. The motion says, quote, the effects on Harvard students, all of its students, will be devastating. Without its international students, Harvard is not Harvard, end quote. In a message sent to the community Friday morning, Garber said that the university has complied with the government's records request to the extent required by law. He condemned the Noem order and vowed to fight it. Quote, the revocation continues a series of government actions to retaliate against Harvard for our refusal to surrender our academic independence and to submit to the federal government's illegal assertion of control over our curriculum, our faculty, and our student body, end quote, he said. Quote, we condemn this unlawful and unwarranted action. It perils the future of thousands of students and scholars across Harvard and serves as a warning to countless others at colleges and universities throughout the country who have come to America to pursue their education and fulfill their dreams, end quote. International students at Harvard hail from more than 140 countries and make up about a quarter of its student body. In her letter, Noem said the certificate revocation means Harvard cannot host non-immigrant international students or scholars on F or J visas for the 2025-2026 academic year. That means current students in those visa categories have to transfer to other institutions in order to maintain their visa status, she wrote. The order left researchers, fellows, and students shaken and angry, and worried that the implications for the country and the university. Among them was Eduardo Vasconcelos, a senior from Brazil whose family, oh damn, a senior, that's a dagger, whose family arrived in Boston for commencement week, hours before the Trump administration issued its order. Quote, "It was hard to hold back tears," end quote, when he heard the Nome letter, Vasconcelos said. Quote, "The order from the administration felt like a rejection of the 4 years that I have spent at Harvard and an attack on the immense work that international students and scholars dedicate to the production of knowledge relevant to the United States and to the world," end quote. "If the action were to take effect," said Vasconcelos, "an honors concentrator in government and economics," and it's his concentration. Okay. "An honors concentrator in government and economics, the country would suffer an," quote, "immeasurable," end quote, "loss of," quote, "vitality, of intellectual diversity, and of an opportunity to do good for the world," end quote. He added, quote, "The federal administration is harming the capacity of America's oldest educational institution to serve as a staircase open to all. This horrific decision limits the ability of our institution to help address the world's most pressing challenges, which invariably requires identifying talents and voices from all over the world and bringing them to Harvard," end quote. Scott Delaney, an epidemiologist at the Harvard Chan School, whose research has yielded insights on the health effects of air pollution and other environmental hazards, said that the action by the Trump administration threatens what should be a source of pride for the nation. Quote, "The United States is a global leader in health science research because the best researchers from all over the world come here as students and then they stay and build their careers," end quote, he said. This is that long-term effect. If China, if we see a brain drain, if we start losing our smart people because it's too dangerous to come here, we will not see those soon, but we will feel them eventually. Quote, "I personally work with students and postdocs from at least 5 different countries on research to improve the lives of Americans living with Alzheimer's disease. If we kick them out just because they were born somewhere else, as the Trump administration is trying to do, then my team simply won't produce as much high-impact research, and the United States will lose out on their insights and contributions. All of these world-class researchers will just take their talents elsewhere," end quote. Because why wouldn't they? Garber closed his message to the community by directly addressing international students and scholars. Quote, "You are our classmates and friends, our colleagues and mentors, our partners in the work of this great institution. Thanks to you, we know more and understand more, and our country and our world are more enlightened and more resilient. We will support you as we do our utmost to ensure that Harvard remains open to the world," end quote. Boom. So that just gives you the rundown. The latest that I heard is that they're still going back and forth, so we'll see. But Harvard is not pulling punches. They're putting out, they're doing the court cases, but they're also putting out the word, making sure that they let people know what's going on. One of the things that gets me the most about this is just how little you'll see in the immediate. We lose the researchers, we lose this type of stuff. You won't necessarily feel that right away, but all of a sudden you'll look around and things will be shittier. Research will be falling behind. Other countries will have these things on the forefront, and we won't be looked at this way. And then it's a snowball effect. A couple people make that decision, a couple people start rolling. All of a sudden, a lot more people pick up. They talk to each other. The international students, I'm sure, are talking to one another. And I'm not saying that they're just some group that, they're superpowers and they can fucking link up or something like that. No, just people talk to one another. And if they see this stuff, they're not going to stick around for it. And I don't blame them. All right, this one I'm just going to briefly go over. We're getting close to the end of stream here. I'm dog tired and I'm going to end it here soon. We're at the 2-hour mark and I apologize. But it's what's best for stream. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do is what's best for stream. But we do have another 15 minutes. So if you're here and you want to get something in, here's your 15 minutes to do so. I'm going to just go through this one briefly. This one is the U.S. Supreme Court blocks funding for religious charter schools. The religious charter school was one coming out of Oklahoma. The Oklahoma Supreme Court, which found the effort to establish the school violates the U.S. Constitution. So the Oklahoma Supreme Court did it. The justices were evenly split, voting 4-4 in a ruling. The tie affirms the lower court ruling from the Oklahoma Supreme Court. And the only reason, remember, that it was tied 4-4 because there are 9 justices. One of the justices recused herself. She's the only one that has done it, at least that I've seen. And it gives me hope that there are Some people with still some amount of morals on the other side. I don't know that Comey Barrett could save us or could do anything. I don't know that anybody can save us at this point. We don't talk about it. But Amy Comey Barrett is at least somewhat dedicated to the principles that she says she is sometimes, which is better than some of the other ones. A lot of the other ones promised things like Roe v. Wade was established precedent, and then when they had their first opportunity to turn it around, it wasn't, oh, well, it came in front of us 2 times, it came in front of us 3 times, and then we eventually, no, this is the very first time that I got a chance to overturn it, the very first time they went ahead and did it. So basically, this just shouldn't be as close as it is. Here we go. The First Amendment prohibits the government from taking any action to establish a dominant religion. Taxpayer funds, such as those earmarked for public schools, have long been considered off limits to religious institutions. So this one was the big one: is are you allowed to use state funds to establish a religious charter school? Oklahoma Supreme Court said no, and then a tie 4-4. Obviously, we know how it went. But you have, what is it? Thomas. So Thomas, Alito. Ooh, I wonder who the 4 was. Was it Roberts came over with the women? Let's see. Let's see how they actually voted. Does it even say who voted what? I don't even know if they list the votes. This says that it was the ruling was delivered in a very short one, and it just says which 4-4 SCOTUS who voted each way. Did any of them actually say, or did that not have? Because my guess would be Roberts. Did not say how each justice voted. Yeah, so the 1-page decision that came out, which we can take a look at if it's so short. It is Robert. They're thinking it is Robert. So this is that Supreme Court decision that we were talking about. Basically just reaffirms that it's just this. This is all the decision that you get. The judgment is affirmed by an equally divided court. We don't know who it is because it would still be 5-3 even with Amy Comey Barrett's recusal. One of the conservative justices had to come over and make sure that this wasn't done. So this is a potential sign of some dissent in those situations, but who knows? This could have been a backroom deal struck between Amy Comey Barrett and somebody else. John Roberts is really obsessed with the court looking a certain type of way, so it could have something to do with that. I think we may hear, this is the type of thing that we may hear, AIDS or something like that leak something, but at least at the moment, we don't really know who voted what. We can assume that the 3 liberals were voting against this because they have actual brains, so that's Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, but we don't know of Kavanaugh, Gorsuch. Thomas and Alito were on the other side, but between Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and John Roberts, one of them hopped on over and voted for the constitutional thing to happen. So at least one is not so far up their ass that they're doing it, but we don't know which one. So we don't even know who to thank.